For libertyandeconomics.com, Nick Sorrentino. I want to talk a little bit about resiliency. My friend Mark Frazier um, is the CEO and chair of OpenWorld.com um, and the Open World Institute and Open World Inc., I believe, has done a fair amount of work on this. And basically, his point is, along with a few other thinkers, a number of other thinkers, is that as we move forward in an increasingly unstable world, it makes sense not to have power centralized in, say, Washington or in a central bank, but rather dispersed over a broad area, so that all the eggs aren't put in, all the economic eggs aren't put into one basket. Uh, Mark makes the point, and has made it a couple of times to me, that what makes sense is, and I totally agree with him, uh, what makes sense is to have increasingly independent small communities that are connected to one another, of course, um, but increasingly able to operate individually. Um, as far as connecting with other people, you have the internet, and so forth. But um, what, unfortunately, the trend in an increasingly unstable world is towards greater centralization, whether that be the U.S. government, where Washington takes over more and more with each passing day, or with banking, where the Federal Reserve has taken more and more and more power. Of course, they work together. But interestingly, there's a bank even beyond the Federal Reserve, and that is the Bank of International Settlements, based in Switzerland. And some people have made the case that, really, after this calamitous year and a half, we should, move responsibility to the Bank of International Settlements or the World Bank or the International Monetary Fund or something like that. Um, Now, don't worry, I'm not going to go into some New World Order rant here, but that seems like the exact opposite direction of where we should be headed. Um, it makes more sense to have independent, small cells that, in the event of one catastrophic failure, the overall system is not hurt. Um, God forbid, a city is succumbs to some sort of a disaster, and let's just say that that city is, holds, all the centralized power for that area. Well, that's going to make things difficult for everyone else. However, if power is dispersed over a broad area, um, you're less likely to have a disaster, um, and even hiccups, because one cell just, you know, if one cell goes away, the other cells just kind of blend in with little disruption. Now, this can be applied to everything. I mean, this is seen in nature all the time. I mean, cells. Your cells die, and living cells take their place. It makes sense that economies are structured the same way, and essentially they naturally are. But it is our human tendency to always try to get away from that, and we do that at our peril. Anyway, I just wanted to end with a discussion of something I'm a big fan of, and that is local currencies. MSM Money actually has a piece about how local towns are printing their own currencies. It talks about Detroit, and Detroit is printing a local currency called the cheer, which I think is great. Certainly, Detroit could use some cheer. And the idea is that you can only spend it within the city bounds of Detroit, thereby keeping business, within the city. Um, and apparently, there are other cities doing this too. South Bend, Indiana, apparently is printing something they're calling the Mac. Um, and this isn't an old idea. I read recently that Milwaukee was actually bringing back some old currencies that they had printed up during the Depression. Um, it is these independent, innovative concepts that will move. society forward in the years to come, because we're just too prone to disaster, um, if we continue to centralize more and more. Um, so, till next time.